Hi, today we're factoring simple trinomial quadratic relations. And why we call it simple trinomial quadratic relations is because the leading coefficient of degree 2, x squared, must be positive 1. An example on the board. X squared plus 5x plus 6. This is a simple trinomial factoring. Why? Because the leading coefficient of x squared is positive 1. And it doesn't really matter for the rest of the trinomial. So what matters to check for the leading coefficient of degree 2, which is positive 1. And then what we do in the next step, open pair of brackets. And right away we throw x and x. And what about the rest of what goes after x would be the product of 6 and sum of the middle term, which is positive 5. So that means we look for two numbers that gives you positive 6. When you add the same numbers, integers should equal to positive 5. So the numbers are 3 and 2 because 3 times 2 is 6. And the same numbers must also satisfy the sum, which is 5. So 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So you cannot choose different numbers for product and sum. Must be identical numbers in order to satisfy the conditions, and then we can throw them inside the bracket after x. Positive 3 and plus 2, or positive 2 and positive 3, doesn't really matter, because if you were to check your solution, all you have to do is expand the brackets, multiply everything in this bracket multiplies by this bracket in order to get back to the original equation. Let's try. X times x, and then x times positive 2, 3 times x, and also 3 times 2 will get you back to x squared plus 5x plus 6 once you simplify and collect it like terms. Let's do another example of simple trinomial factoring. And one thing that I want to mention also, that remember that we need to always look for common factor no matter what types of factoring we're dealing with. For example, 2x squared minus 2x subtract 4. Now, this is not a simple trinomial factoring right away because you can see that the coefficient of x squared is not positive 1. So, but you might want to look at for common factor in order to convert it to simple trinomial factoring. Always look for common factor. If you cannot get rid of 2 as a common factor, then it's other types of factoring. As I mentioned, that I will do other types of factoring and other videos that you might want to watch. Alright? So, but in this lesson, we're only talking about simple trinomial factoring. So, let's see if we have a common factor here. Yes, we do. The greatest common factor is 2. So 2 goes into 2, 2 goes into 2 in the middle term also, 2 goes into 4. So we take the 2 out as a common factor, meaning that we divide everything by 2. So this is going to be 1x squared minus 1x minus 2. Now you can see that we convert it to simple trinomial factoring because the coefficient of x squared is positive 1. So what we do in the next step, remember to carry the common factor always before the brackets. Now we throw x and x because it's going to be x squared, and the sum is negative 1 and the product is negative 2. Again, we look for two numbers that multiplies gives you negative 2, and sum should equal to negative 1. So what are the numbers will be? Of course, 2 times 1 is 2, but the difference between 2 and 1 is 1. So which one should carry the negative sign? The larger number, because negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. If sum was, the middle term was positive 1, then that means the larger number should carry the positive sign, the smaller number should carry the negative sign. So both of these integers satisfy this condition. Then what we do, we throw them in the bracket, minus 2 and plus 1, and that's factored. How would you check your solution again? By expanding the brackets. Once you expand the two brackets and then multiply everything by 2, collect like terms, you should get back to the original equation. And remember that why we're factoring because in order to find the x-intercepts, the zeros of quadratic relations, where the curve, the parabola crosses the x-axis, right? So that's why we're factoring quadratic relations. And so I'm hoping that this lesson was very useful and productive. And don't forget to write everything down, and also write everything that what I said in this lesson, because it's very important to make your notes very valuable. By saying valuable, not just writing what you see on the board, write also what you hear from myself that I was talking about through the steps. So that's how we make our notes valuable. And practice a few times these examples, then apply to the questions from your textbook. And make sure to practice in order to maintain and understand, right? And it's not about memorizing questions, it's about really understand what method of quadratic relation you're talking about or you're looking at, and apply the right method to that question. So please don't forget to subscribe, and I would really appreciate a good comment and thumbs up. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.